Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan were quite unique people. Up to that point, we'd had people like Heath, who signed us up into a trading arrangement apparently in Europe, which according to a book I had here, he knew what he was doing and he wasn't intending to do that. The Secretary of State at the time told him what he was doing. He said, well, the British people shouldn't know. So even from then, at that stage, we have been lied to and deceived to all this time. In other words, they've treated the British people not like friends, but like enemies, because you only hide and keep secrets from enemies. Now, Margaret Thatcher was a very unusual person. She realized that, having been a daughter of a shopkeeper, that the best thing to do was to lower taxes so money could be spent by the people. Government is notoriously bad at spending money and wastes huge amounts of money all over the place. And so she reduced taxes along with Reagan, because Reagan had made a mistake in California. He increased taxes when he was governor, and when he realized he'd made a mistake because people were going out of California. Now, these men only have one answer: more and more taxes loaded on the British people. And remember, Margaret Thatcher had a similar sort of problem, not to the size we've got now, for goodness sake, but through this government's craziness of spending. I think the total, including all the money they're given to the banks and the new loans and everything they've made from banks when they've got the right to raise the money themselves, amounts to 2.45 trillion. The British economy isn't that big. Well, I think the whole of the British economy is about 2 trillion pounds. I'm talking about. I mean, it is absolutely crazy what they've been allowed to do. Plus, I mean, all the lies and deceits, as I say, they've treated the British people like enemies over this time. This European thing is not just a gut reaction. Oh well, we'll do this, we'll do that. This is a long-term, laid-out plan. Wouldn't it have been the right thing to do and said, this is our plan? But no, as he said, the people shouldn't know this. And a lot of those men said in Europe, I've seen 2 or 3 of them say, if the people knew what we were doing, they'd rise up and kill us. Well, that is what they're doing, and it will happen. Because how long do you think that they can keep on hiding the fact that they've sold us down the road, and they've given away our rights and freedoms, and all the things that our forefathers fought for? I mean, let's take this terrible situation. Because of a few paedophiles, every woman and man in this country is now a criminal, until proved not. That is not habeas corpus. They're getting used to the fact that they're going to pass us into this other system. And Brown wanted to do away about, a couple of years ago now, on the grounds of cost, to do away with the jury system. Let me tell you something about the jury system, everybody. The jury system is your guarantee against bad laws produced by governments, because the jury will listen to your case and they'll turn down the case. But you must remember, go and watch Judge John Deed. Like Yes Prime Minister and Yes Minister, that particular program is written with some insight, and you can see the pressures judges are put under. We need juries. We need juries to keep us from becoming a dictatorship. Now they say, oh, well, the problem with juries is because, they don't have concentration. I think that's absolute nonsense. People today do a lot more reading because they go on the net than they ever did, but there's also a lot more watching. There's a lot more education than there was 50, 60 years ago. I'm 66. I know that. There's a lot more reading today because a lot more people get on the net, and quite a lot of the stuff you had to read. So this is a lot of nonsense. Do not believe it. Keep the jury system, because that's the only way we can stop bad laws being passed by dictatorial powers like we've now joined into Europe. I mean, just look at Europe. It's sclerotic. We shouldn't be part of it. Matter of fact, Europe is about 1 or 2% growth. If they're lucky, I don't think it's on that right now. Remember, there's a huge world out there besides Europe that we can be trading with. China's going ahead about 10 or 12%. India's going about 10 or 12%. There's a whole lot of countries, and we are part of a group with all these 200,000 laws they have produced. Did they tell you that? Not at all. The laws are so convoluted that the average British person couldn't read them. As a matter of fact, a few of the MPs I know have even attempted to. And one of my friends who knows these people, he said he was up in the European restaurant having dinner there, and they were with a group of MEPs, and they said, "What do you think of that law you passed today?" And she said, the woman said he was talking to her, she said, "Well, I didn't have time to read it because it's this thick, and we only got it yesterday or the day before." So I asked those people, and they said it's a good idea. That is how you do laws in Europe. And then our MPs over here wink it through. You know how they're in Parliament there. When you see the Parliament, I mean, there's just a few on the seats most of the day, except for Prime Minister's question times. What else they're doing? Well, we know they're planning to try and find out how much more money they can get out of us. So, yes, we shouldn't be part of that nightmare. You see, 80% of that are Catholic nations. And a lot of those nations, over eons now, have all been under dictatorship. So they know nothing about democracy. You watch Hanan and you watch Farage there, and you look around the area there, and most of the people aren't there. They're having a great time, not there, having been in and signed in. That was found out by BBC, and also German television went there, and against the law, their own rules, they ushered them out because they were catching these MPs rushing in to sign in to go off, and they didn't know what to do. Some even rushed off when they realized they hid in the lift, and they said, "What are you hiding in here for? What are you hiding in here for? You usually want to talk to us on the TV." And she didn't know what to do. She was trying to hide her face. This is the corruption that we've joined. And this is, in actual fact, why we must get out of it. And that's why Cameron saying that, now it's all done. That is like saying that the thief has stolen the goods, well, he must keep them now. It's tough, we can't do anything about it. In other words, they've stolen our rights, they've stolen our democracy, and, they can keep it. Well, I find that unacceptable. I don't know about you. Absolutely unacceptable. And I think that in the coming elections, we should cut down on our voting. Stop voting with your gut. I've always been a Conservative, I've always been a Labour, I've always been a Liberal. Think. 3 parties agree on one thing, and that is Europe. There's something clearly wrong there. Because when 95% of the budget is missing, remember we're spending 40 million a day, that's 14 billion a year, that is 196 billion we've given over the last 14 years, and according to the EU auditors, 95% of that missing. But even worse than that, you've got 27 member states who've been paying in. That amounts to trillions that apparently 95% of it is unaccounted for. Let me put the wording in. The auditors say the money is unaccounted for. Now, if you understand how auditors work, they tick here, they tick there, and they go right through the audit trail. It's unaccounted for. They will refuse to sign off the books over that period, over 14 years, and there's probably a 15th year coming, unless they've had their knuckles wrapped because of it. And, it's trillions that is missing. So look, we got to force something here. As the British people, we've got to start saying, we want our rights back, we want our country back, we want everything to be checked out. What Brown and Blair did, they call him Blair on the net. Well, that's what they called him, and Brown was called Bottom Brown because he sold our gold and warned the market he was going to do it. He sold it for $270 an ounce, when it usually runs at about $350, and when it went up to actually $1,070. How many billions did that cost, besides the rest he's given the banks, etc.? We can't afford any of this man's right decisions. We've got to get into a government that reduces taxes so this country can get off its back. Thank you very much for listening.